the State Director for Adult and Family Education at the DC Office of the State Superintendent of Education. And I also on the line, Dr. Bruce, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Heather Bruce, the University of the District of Columbia. I am the Director of the Adult Education Program. Welcome to our mini PD Institute. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you. We're so excited that you have decided to join us. Our mini Professional Development Institute theme is meeting the education and workforce needs of district residents at a distance, resources, strategies, and partnerships. We're so pleased to open our mini PD Institute with Mr. Jason Gard and also Laura Shee from She. Laura, did I pronounce it right or is it Shy?
It's pronounced she. You got it.
Okay, Laura Shee from Essential Education. They'll be facilitating a session on adaptive learning with Essential Education from adult basic education to GED to workforce preparation. OSSI has been working in partnership with Essential Education for many years now to offer GED Academy, CASAS Academy, Computer Essentials, Money Essentials, and Work Essentials available to providers and Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act partners in the District of Columbia. There's additional information about how to access this resource on the OSSI Adult and Family Education website, but I'm going to ask Jason and Laura to take it away. So thank you all again for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle Johnson. My name is Jason Gard, and I am the Mid-Atlantic Sales Rep and Blended Learning Specialist for Essential Education. I'm sharing my screen now, and I'm going to jump back and forth between Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome before handing off to our trainer, Laura Shee, who is actually on the West Coast and above she's awake with the sun rising this morning. So thank you so much, Laura, for joining us. I tend to give big picture overviews about implementation and Laura does a lot of the nuts and bolts, detailed troubleshooting and Q&A. So with that in mind, I'll probably be handling the bulk of this hour, and I want to encourage folks to ask questions. If there's a chat, you post there, and someone will put that question to me or what have you. But otherwise, if you're not presenting, you can use your mic, and then there won't be any background noise, and we'll have a quick tour of the products and courses that you have access to in Essential Education's adaptive online learning platform. So, first of all, on the screen right now, before I shift out to the management system, we saw the student homeroom for CASAS GOALS Academy. That is our lowest level course. It starts at the second grade reading level, and all of you educators in the DC area have access to it through OSSI. And it's a great on-ramp to GED prep, and you can transition someone over to GED Academy from CASAS GOALS Academy around level D. Again, it starts at the second grade reading level, so really the if everyone could tap that mic button to make sure there's a slash through it, we want to make sure there's no background noise. But I just want to get that out of the way first. Enrolling students in this program is a piece of cake. We'll show you how, and getting people studying on their own is the biggest role that educators are playing in this new kind of pandemic context. So I'll be going over a lot of the hows and whys of our design and the features, but also just a little bit about my background and essential education in general. First off, essential education has focused on developing the most user-friendly and intuitive, adaptive online learning platform available in the field to education, to adult educators. And the way we've done that is to make the program adaptive using complex algorithms that respond to each student's output. So it's going to give higher level learners the more rigorous content, and it's going to make lower level learners pace themselves through the basics so they get the strong foundation. And so an adaptive platform really conforms to the student's needs. But I also wanted to key on that term, adaptive, because all of us in education are having to adapt to a new circumstance. And when you're doing that, it helps to have a kind of multi-tool. You want to have a lot of options for ways to handle the changes that your program and your services are going through. So in that way, our adaptive online learning platform is really the ideally suited for what we're dealing with now, with basically no classroom instruction. So our program allows you to give each student their own individualized learning program, and this is where you do it. You're looking at the learning management system screen right now, and this is the kind of the nerve center, or the beehive of teacher and administrator activity. Your students never see this view, but this is where you go to enter student accounts. You can click the orange button to add students.
Excuse me, JC.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Could you please enlarge your screen a little bit, the information on the screen?
Sure.
Thank you.
So let me zoom. So also thinking about a little bit about my background. I've spent 20 years in the field of adult education, working with GED students and GED teachers. And one thing I keyed in on 20 years ago was that I believed that a lot of the learners that I was touching, that I was involved with, or in mostly over the phone, could do some of the heavy lifting on their own, online, using online learning tools. And so I would help them find the right tools to suit them if they couldn't get into a class. And gradually that became more and more a focus in the field of adult ed, and now we have really blended learning as the kind of the topic du jour in our field. So integrating the new school tools and the old school classroom and tutoring approaches into one cohesive package is the prescription at most adult ed centers. So our tools will really help with that. And I've found a good home at Essential Ed to keep advocating for integrating innovative educational technology. The first button I want to click on in our learning management system is, although I did mention your first stop will probably be adding a student, this orange button. And if you don't know how, you can watch this little video that shows you. That we put these little discrete videos, 2-minute videos that show you how to do the function that you're most likely to be using on any screen. but I want to show you the list of courses that you have access to. So you can click the upper right-hand corner. It said product, and then mine says CASAS GOALS Academy, because that's the lower level course where most people spend most of their time, since it does start at the second grade reading level. You do also have access to the old CASAS Academy. You know, before CASAS Goals came and replaced CASAS Work and Life, we had a alignment for CASAS Academy. So I'm going to ignore the TABE stuff. That's not relevant in DC, but you know, we have, of course, create our content aligned to the college and career readiness standards. So it's going to be generic to those standards and can be applied to either assessment. But under OSSE, you have CASAS tests, and then at the I'd say probably 6th to 8th grade reading level, level D on the CASAS goals, you would switch your learner to GED Academy. And in DC and even the surrounding states, HiSET and TASC are not relevant, so you don't have those courses on your menu. But keeping it simple, fortunately, you have just the GED. Go head further south to North Carolina, and they have 3 tests to choose from. But again, all measuring college and career readiness standards skills. So you know, in essence, they are equivalent, and by definition, they are equivalent. But moving on, I also want to point out a feature in our program is a way to run reports on your students' work in our ABE Essentials workbooks. It's an interesting feature, but those are hard copy workbooks that have an online component to each lesson. And so there is a way that your students can do work on their mobile device prompted by their workbooks, and then the details show up here paired with their other data from CASAS Goals Academy and GED Academy. So you're getting info on their print work in a manner of speaking. But that's a separate product, and those can be sold separately. I'm not meaning to do an advertisement, just want to point out why that's in this list. A really cool feature for all OSSE educators and the students that you work with is that you have access to Career Essentials, Work Essentials, and Money Essentials. And those are relatively discrete courses. They're much shorter than GED or CASAS Academy, and they result in a certificate of completion that would look great attached to a resume, and also it would be great to come out of this quarantine situation, you know, with some additional workforce ready credentials. So we've got soft skills.
While you're taking a breath, Jason, excuse me, just wanted to remind everyone, we've had some people join us. Welcome. Since we last made the announcement, if you would, you can use the toolbar in the middle of your screen. You'll see an icon for a microphone. You can click that and it will mute you. And then that way you can mute yourself to reduce any background noise. Thank you. Excuse me, Jason.
I'm so glad you said that. I hate to be a broken record about that kind of thing. But, you know, learning the ins and outs of all the new tech tools is part of the game now as adult educators, so that we can, you know, do our work virtually and effectively. Fortunately, the ins and outs of the essential education tech tool is really simple. So you're going to find that it takes a lot of work off your plate. It's not one more thing to do. It actually helps you be more efficient, and I'm going to show you how. So again, but as Stacy said, you can just hit that microphone to mute, so we don't pick up your what's going on in your quarantined house. But again, these are soft skills. Money Essentials does teach, how to not fall prey to the predatory lenders and scams out there, but it also helps you just kind of plan your own money management and finances. So these are really crucial to help make sure our clients don't wind up falling prey to opportunists, and also that they're secure for the long haul and can help to support their families. Dreamcatcher is a separate program. We can set that aside, but it is a career planning tool. It's sold separately. A heads up, it's $15 per student, but they own their account, and they take it with them for years into the future as they chart their course through their career. And also, I want to mention on Computer Essentials, you have access to that. It's much deeper than Work and Money Essentials, because technology is really integrated throughout our lives now, and so computer skills are really social skills, and they are critical thinking skills, and they are organizational skills. We'll go peek at that in a moment. In fact, I would say that the skills you learn on Computer Essentials will boost your GED score. I don't know how you would prove whether or not it did, but it really does teach to many of the college and career readiness standards that are measured on the GED. So that's.
If I could add to using Computer Essentials and improving GED score. So GED is now a computerized test. And while we do have, a couple lessons from GED Academy that teaches some of those skills, Computer Essentials will really help students in thinking through utilizing technology more, but also doing it in a safe and secure way. So whether it's going in and feeling really confident taking that computerized GED test, or utilizing Computer Essentials to search for a job, all the communications now that are done in the workplace, it really is an amazing course. It's also longer because it's built and aligned to the IC3 exam, which is a recognized digital literacy certification. So aside from the certificate of completion and achievement they'll receive from our workforce readiness programs, in Computer Essentials, your students can go and take like a nationally recognized certification test as well. And Computer Essentials is designed to prepare them for that.
I appreciate you chiming in with that, Laura. Great soundbite. And from last I checked, the IC3 test was given at Pearson VUE testing centers. So that's.
And they still have one of the deadliest three-point shooters in the league in Joe Harrison. He made 5 in a row.
So for those of you who have not been able to mute your phone, I am muting individuals who have not done that, but from my view, it shows that everyone is. So if you have toggled off and unmuted your phone, please do so. We were hearing some news there. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're going to keep rolling. I just want to point out one last thing on the menu list. Not everything, some of the things on this menu will be grayed out and they're not available to you. But one thing that is available is the Spanish GED practice test. That is a feature that we've turned on for all of our GED Academy clients, so that you at least have a diagnostic on your native Spanish-speaking clients. We don't have our lessons designed in Spanish, but if one day perhaps we will. But in the meantime, we did make our GED practice tests available in Spanish so that you can screen and place your Spanish-speaking students. And with that, I'm going to jump out of the menu. Again, that was just the button here, product. And when you're moving around in this program, you want to be mindful of what product you have selected, because that's going to affect what reports you pull and what you're going to see when you jump into the student homeroom. And that's really where I want to go next. What your students are doing on their computer when they're studying, that is the most important topic in this session, if you ask me. So I want to go ahead and show you what that looks like if you haven't seen it before. And there's been a lot of upgrades. We have been, over the years, really overhauling the whole student homeroom. And from this vantage point, you can see what a generic student would see in their prep program. And what they're looking at is CASAS GOALS Academy, specifically the reading goals or the reading subtest. Now let's not get confused. We have because of something I said. We have a prep program that focuses on instruction and practice. And there are practice tests in our program. CASAS Goals practice tests are featured here. However, we do not provide a virtual version of the CASAS test, so that is a separate separate arrangement that you have with CASAS or any assessment company for that matter. So just want to keep that in mind. Assessment and instruction, two very different publishing companies, and we are on the instruction side. But your students, when they arrive here, they have already gone through an orientation that gives them a little bit of a kind of a pep talk that tells them what is expected of them and what they can expect of our program and the supports that it will feature. It also helps them kind of set general guidelines and goals for themselves, like how many hours a week they plan to put in. This all takes work off of your plate. You won't have to show your student how to use the software, because the software will show your student how to use it. That really frees you up to focus on troubleshooting and helping your students overcome their academic challenges and any cognitive issues or sticking points that come up on their practice tests and so forth. In my mind, that means that you're going to be more effective and efficient because you're not babysitting the software. It will show them how to use it. If your student ever asks you, well, what do I do now? You only have to tell them once. You click the big button in the middle of the screen that says start the lesson. That is where their individualized learning plan is gradually unfolding in the correct sequence. So again, this button right here, and if you hear the other most frequent question, well, what if I already know this stuff? Why do I have to do this? Well, first, you can say, well, you have to do it because it's on the test. But if you in fact already know this stuff, you can test out of that unit, and there's a feature under every lesson. Think you've already got it. Test out of the vocab basics. So you can take a test and score 70 or 80%, and then that will opt you out of this particular unit, and then your score on that test will show up in the mastery skill little box down here. As your students work through these lessons, they're going to feel a sense of accomplishment as their results are showing up down here. And it's color coded. It's going to say when they're hitting the ball out of the park. It's going to say when they're just barely passing, or if they are struggling. And as that happens, they are going to get little notices under the review tab that, hey, where the system is noticing where you are struggling, and it's prompting them to work on additional lessons under the review tab to fill in some of the gaps. That really puts the student in the driver's seat, so they are able to decide, are they working on the lesson that's being prompted, or are they going to go back and fill in the gaps that have come up. So there are options for them, and it gives them a little bit more control over what they're doing at any given moment. But there's also a button here that I'll show you down below in a second that gives you control as the educator. You can assign additional lessons, and and you can do that from the management system where we were before. So that will show up here. And so that will show up here. Just like on your phone, letting you know how many
Just like on your phone, letting you know
piled up over time that you haven't yet looked at. I'm getting a little background. Video. We need to turn that off. But just a heads up, like if you're used, we should all be used to seeing how many voicemail messages we have on our phone. The review and the assignments tab has a similar red circle with a number in it, letting you know, it's an alert, letting you know how many lessons are waiting that were assigned because of their because of the work they've put in, or because the teacher has assigned those lessons. Now, you don't have to show and tell your student any of what I'm telling you. When they arrive here and they've taken their practice test, or maybe they already have practice test scores and you put those in for them. When they arrive here, they're going to be given a tutorial. And the tutorial is also located down here. You can expand it, but I'm just going to point out really quickly that the facilitator of most of our lessons facilitates the tutorial. His name is Leonard Williams, and he's been avatar in our program since 2004. And we design all of his pointers with best practices in adult education in mind. So Leonard is giving your student a tour of the platform, how to make it work for them, and showing how it adapts to their needs. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here to this button that I was just showing off. The assignments tab allows you to add additional lessons to your students' learning plan. So here, they're getting an alert for how many review lessons have piled up, but also an alert for how many lessons their teacher has selected personally and assigned to them. And here, the teacher includes notes with why they're assigning those lessons, or maybe some encouragement about how well they're doing and how they should branch out and consider this subject area. So that puts a little bit more control in your hands, but it also really personalizes the experience. So your student doesn't feel like they're just, zoning out in front of a computer, clicking through a PowerPoint slides, which I have to say, some online learning products still feel like that. Our program really tries to connect with your student psychologically, and I don't want to say emotionally. We'll get into that in a moment, but it's really trying to engage them. We use elements of gamification, such as the progress bar here, where your students are able to see how much, see their gains and see how close they are to the finish line as they go. And if we click on, let's pretend we're jumping out of CASAS prep and jumping over to GED prep, because we're, more than halfway there, and we want to see how they would do on GED normed practice tests or GED ready style practice tests. Our program has 4 practice tests in it. They are not GED ready practice tests, just to clarify. They are modeled after the GED ready, so they are our homegrown versions. But when they are ready for that kind of material, that kind of preparation, you would switch them from CASAS GOALS Academy to GED Academy, and then they arrive here, and their progress just continues on in pre-GED level or regular GED level or advanced if they're really trying to ace that test. And for their edification, to help them know how far away the finish line is, they can click on, they can keep an eye on the estimated time required for them to finish this subject area, or I say finish, I mean be ready to pass the test. in this subject area, which in this case is math reasoning. And so we have passing indicated on their progress bar, and we have honors indicated on their progress bar as well.
Really quickly about the progress box and that practice test bar. This will always show the highest score a student has achieved on their practice test, where right below where it says estimated study time to pass, that's always going to be based on their most recent. And if you can click on practice test details, that's going to then show you their most recent attempts, and you can make that comparison. So for the Spanish speaking students, I always advocate turning missed opportunities into learning opportunities. So you're welcome to, and they can, of course, click on details and look at the questions that they've missed, click on explain the answer, and what that will do is provide them with how to get that correct answer, what the correct answer is, and why that is the correct answer in Spanish for the native speakers.
Wow, that's great. Laura, is the GED, is the explanation in a Spanish language audio?
There's no audio on the practice test, but the explanation is written. So it's text-based, but as you work with your students, absolutely utilize that information and provide the additional explanation, or giving them the learning resources that you have available so they can, you know, get more instruction on those particular topics or skills where they've missed in the past on a previous practice test. And based on popular demand, we did add the date in which the student took that practice test on that test overview page as well. And mainly, you know, as we know, the longer a student lapses in between their instruction and their practice test time to taking that official exam, the less accurate those predictor scores become, because they'll start to forget things and they'll be out of practice on, you know, key skills. So by knowing when students got their best score or when did they last take a practice test, it helps you to better judge, okay, how accurate is it, and maybe assign them a practice test that they haven't seen in a while. So the test taking skills, the content knowledge, and the content skills that they need are fresh on their mind when they go in and take that official exam. And anytime students take a practice test, you bet Leonard is in the background reviewing what they missed and, you know, what skills they can improve on, and those recommendations are going to go into the review section. So it's like you have your own version of Score Boost within GED Academy. And of course, that gives you an opportunity to connect and work with those students on the questions that they've missed as well. So you're feeling confident and the student is feeling really confident walking into that testing center. So that's one way of utilizing that practice test or the progress box feature and determining, hey, these students are absolutely ready and they're going to be meeting their learning objectives.
Great points, Laura. I appreciate you chiming in and giving our audience a change in vocal tone. So we can't just have all baritone. We have to have some alto, or I'm not sure. What is the higher frequency?
Soprano.
There you go. I think that's probably you. But really, that practice test business is really crucial. Our platform serves as an unlimited practice testing bank. You can use it for screening and placement, not for reporting purposes because they're not official practice tests, but you can cycle learners through our platform and just give lots of practice tests and make sure you know who's close to the finish line. And also, when I say finish line, the GED test requires a 145, but our practice test requires a 155 because we want to make sure they're going to pass with a comfortable margin. We don't want people barely passing or not passing because they got the green light from our platform. So we want to make sure that they are going to clear that bar with ease. Again, a comfortable number of test questions correct. So just putting that out there. Better to be safe than sorry on when to send someone to test, and that's what our program does. Also, I was really glad to hear two things Laura said. One is teacher input. You know, our program has evolved significantly over the years, and as much credit as we would like to take for that, we have to give credit to our clients all over the country that have basically explained their needs and their implementation, and that has informed our evolution. So anything that you think needs adjusting or attention, you bring it to us, and we'll put it into our hive mind and try to continually improve our platform. Another thing, practice tests, study improvements. If your student who is taking GED Academy is a little nervous about taking the test on a computer, they can click Need Computer Skills, and there's a short course, not the full Computer Essentials course, but just a short little run through of the skills you need to be proficient at taking a computer-based test. And that includes the keyboarding, because they're going to write an essay, and they really should be typing at least 20 words a minute. And when I say essay, yes, I mean extended response. So that feature is down here. You can direct your students' attention to it if, as a first stop, if they are really tentative or showing trepidation when it comes to using a computer in their preparation. Let's go ahead and peek at the job ready courses. So let's pretend your student is diligently working on ABE level instruction. Let's say CASAS GOALS Academy, GED is on the horizon for them. What can we do to make sure that they get something, some kind of reward, something to give them a sense of achievement as they go? And a stackable credential would really scratch that itch and help as a good incentive. And each of our work, money, and computer essentials terminates in a printable certificate of completion. So you can use that as a way to be productive during the quarantine or when they're out of class. The modules are listed down here under each of these titles. Under money essentials, we have budgets and loans, credit and financial goals. And the let's see, money. So there are some animated video lessons that really kind of highlight the kind of situations that your students run into in their real life. So it activates their background knowledge and really kind of treats them as adults. And the same design for our lessons in CASAS GOALS Academy and GED Academy. But we can click on one of these and take a peek. But also notice that at each level ends in a quiz. They score at a particular level before they complete this program, and so they're going to get a leveled certificate. And they might choose to take and retake that that module or that whole course in order to get the highest level certificate.
You will use your financial goals action plan to help you keep on track. You will also learn how to revise your budget if your financial situation changes. A financial goals action plan helps you find out how much you need to save for or pay toward a goal to reach it by a certain time. But it can do more than that. You can use your action plan to track your progress toward according to plan.
I'm going to click ahead on
you might
the
want to
progress
use it
bar.
to follow action plan worksheet in the resources. Let's go find Curtis.
So the lessons in our program use some avatars that are drawn from different levels and needs in the typical adult ed classroom, and then oftentimes they are discussing with each other what their you know, what their understanding is of a particular concept. And as they kind of kick that back and forth, they clarify a lot of things, and also and most importantly, if you ask me, they dispel misconceptions. And if you don't dispel misconceptions in your academic or soft skill instructions, they persist, and they override the new skills you're learning. So we really make it a high priority to kind of dispel some of the myths of life that, you know, may have served you well to this point, but
Hey, Curtis,
not where you're headed.
how's your financial goals action plan?
I'll put aside each month to reach my goals.
That's perfect.
Not perfect. About a week later, I had to have some work done.
I just want to point out something about our design. Your student can click on the menu to see what all is entailed in this lesson. There are the concepts are introduced here and clarified before they arrive at practice problems to make sure that they are understanding these concepts. If they want to read along with what's on the screen, the transcripts are here. And there are ADA compliant features in all of our academic courses to make sure that they have closed captioning and so forth. So you really have a lot of bells and whistles in here to make sure that your students are getting everything, getting the best look at our material. Also, this layout that you're seeing is typical of all of our lessons. It is designed to format to the screen of all mobile devices. So if you have an iPhone or an Android phone or a tablet of some sort, whether it's Apple or not, it was designed for mobile. But as I see on my screen, and probably you at home, it then expands and works on laptop and desktop computer screens as well. So when you hear the term, you know, is your or you hear the question, is your software optimized for mobile? Optimized is actually a term that means retrofitted. So it doesn't mean that it was originally designed for mobile, and that's what we've done. So you wouldn't, optimized for mobile is actually suboptimal, which is a little ironic. But you can see here that the student watching this is in total control. They can jump backwards and forwards and clarify concepts. And down here in the left, their time on task is being tracked. If they stop moving the mouse for X number of minutes, I think it's 3 or 4, then it's going to stop recording time, and it won't give them credit for the amount of for being active. And you can't report time that your student spent logged into a piece of software. You need to report time where they were spent actively learning. And so that's how we have made sure our software gives you NRS reportable seat time. And of course, the practice problems require a variety of different kinds of inputs, whether they're drag and drops and hotspots or keying in numbers. And anytime you submit an answer, it's going to give you a chance to learn that concept if you got it wrong. So there's a teach me where you can have it clarify, you know, why you might have gotten that one wrong and what you should have done to get it right. I am going to exit this assignment and hop over to Work Essentials real quick, so you can see the soft skills that your students need to be successful in the workplace. And all of our lessons in this program are kind of piggybacking on Department of Labor content and videos. So we go straight to the source to get the skills that the Department of Labor and the federal government prescribes for the workforce. And whether it's finding a job or keeping a job and socializing on the job, or at least, you know, being sociable on the job is more like it. And lastly, Computer Essentials, again, is much more robust. It's twice as long as Work and Money Essentials. But again, it protects your student. It helps protect your student against anything that might be concerning on the internet, and also, keeps them well informed about how to be safe on the internet. So they're not just totally paranoid about scams. They're well versed in how to navigate the web, and even how to. This might be important in the next few months. Kind of how to be more media literate. So it will help them differentiate between different sources and understand the difference between fact and fiction, and opinion versus evidence-based writing. So gathering information online and analyzing it is part of this program, as well as how to use word processing or spreadsheets, and the basics that you would learn in a Microsoft course. Although our instruction is generic to any brand of those kind of Office suite of software. Okay, I'm going to jump back out of the student view. Again, the bells and whistles are all explained in the tutorial, and that will be something that your students can go through on their own. But I recommend teachers do it as well. And as the program is backing me out of the student view and putting me into teacher view, I want to point out that we have made a really big splash recently by going in by circulating our brand new distance education trainings. Now, I have a little problem here on my screen. Laura, are you able to chime in right now?
I'm looking at the chat, and there have been some really great questions that have come through. Here's one that pertains to the Work and Money Essential that you just showed, which is you do not have to work through those courses in sequential order in the way that it's showing, in the way that it's built. I mean, we built it that way because logically it makes sense, but you can absolutely jump around to individual topics in the time that you need. So as an example, a couple years ago when I was looking to buy a car, I specifically focused on the car loans unit, just like Jason said, so that I feel prepared and empowered walking into a dealership. Whereas in our other courses, they are designed to align to key targets on the test, and that's why it flows the way that it does.
Can I ask you a quick favor, Laura?
Yeah.
My computer has frozen, and I'm going to back out and jump back in. Can you take some of those some of those questions from the chat, or jump over to the reports and give a quick peek at the reports?
Certainly, I can do that.
We'll see you there in 5 minutes.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to request for the screen share and go ahead and share my screen. I think attempt to share my screen.
So Jason, can you release first? Oh, there it goes, Laura. Oh, perfect. Great.
Okay.
You see it.
Excellent. Well, we might be going without a screen for a moment, but let's see what I can do. So great questions coming through on the chat, and I'm happy to talk about reports briefly. One of the key designs for our software is addressing key questions that teachers have about their adult learners, where they are academically, what specific skills they need to focus on or work on in order to pass their official exam. And those are information that we have available in our reports. And it's bringing about in multiple ways. When you click on reports, it's going to default to study time, because it has the largest impact on students meeting their learning goals and objectives. So we'll be able to let you know, within a specific frame, whether you're checking it weekly, monthly, every quarter, which students are logging in, how many hours they're putting into the program. So that's broader in the bar graph report, and then we can drill down into detail. So from a teaching perspective, I would want to know, what specifically, lessons, quizzes, or practice tests my students have been working on. I'm looking for engagement time, so active participation and engagement within those lessons. And then if there are any repeated attempts of the same content item. And those will give me indications for how the students are progressing, if they're having any challenges, or if they hit a speed bump or a road bump. That will give me indication as to how I can better help that particular student. I recommend, so the student view that Jason showed, you have the ability of having that eagle eye view into the student's homeroom, and that's through a report we call Student Overview. And with the Student Overview report, and I think I can actually, okay, this is someone's homeroom. So with that information, so let me log in. Visuals are always appreciated. All right. So when I click on reports, defaulting to study time, again, bar graph shows me total time, and this is from yesterday. Of course, I can look at it from last week and get more details with the export feature, which will give you spreadsheets. The report that I use quite often, and especially in COVID when everyone is staying at home, but specifically if you want to do one-on-one follow-up with an individual student, all I need to do is find that student's name, click on See Report under Student Overview, and this is as if I'm logged in as Curtis, and I am able to do a really thorough follow-up with Curtis based on this one report. I'm going to back out just a little bit. So hopefully you can still see the text. But basically, Learning Plan is showing me the most recent item, and that was a graphs and charts unit quiz, which Curtis did really well. Very targeted praise that I can give to Curtis. Looking at study time, Curtis hasn't put in any time yet this week or most of last month. So I might have an attendance issue with Curtis. So I'm gonna talk to him, find out why. Maybe an internet connection at home, not as strong or not as reliable. So there are options. We can, troubleshoot through that. And maybe just, things happening at home, whatever that is, I want to address it right away. So that's a talking point I can have with Curtis using the study time box. Here at the pre-GED level, Curtis has done really well in the pre-GED section, so I can anticipate really good, solid practice test result, and possibly also being able to pass out of some units at the GED prep level as well. So I can see 180 was the best that Curtis has done, but on the most recent attempt, it's saying you still have 6 more hours of work to do. That's conflicting based on what I see right now. So I want to go to test details and see, okay, so test 3, but 0 time. So maybe that was just a technology fluke. Curtis started the test and either just had to exit or didn't mean to, and that's what's impacting the 6 hours. But on the same day, on a different attempt, Curtis did much better. So I will wait the results of this time practice test and then make recommendations following what I see in our reports. So it has lots of really good information that from an instructor can guide me in then how I proceed in terms of lesson planning, what I teach to my students that's going to maximize my direct instruction time, and then specifically what advice or what I can do with individual students to keep them on track and get them in reaching their learning goals. So for lesson planning, definitely want to go to skill mastery. This is where that product selection is going to make a big difference. This will show me skills related to the GED test and how my students are performing on those test standards. So I can focus on areas where there is gaps from the majority of my students. And I can drill down to an individual student as well and see specifically where that individual student needs to do more work in order for them to really succeed in passing those official tests. And then finally, if you are planning on assigning additional lessons, or if I get conflicting information, so students do really well on quizzes but very poorly on practice test, or you see them spending lots of lessons on lessons but not making great improvements in their CASAS scores, you can go to student summary report. I'm going to look at just say from March of this year and export. Well, this report will show me would be all of those lessons that students have submitted at the end. So they've basically turned it in for a grade, and I'm able to see how they did on those content items. And ideally what I want to see is good lesson scores leading to good quiz scores, which will lead to improved practice test scores. So this is a very brief overview of what I cover in the advanced user webinar. So I really deep dive into our reports and show you what information is available, and then give tips and things that we know works really well, that have led to improved learning outcomes, and giving those tips to you in that particular webinar.
Laura, if I could squeeze a couple words in here.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry I dipped out so abruptly. My whole laptop froze and it demanded to be restarted. So thank you for catching the baton in midair like that. So I just want to point out that the question came up or a suggestion from Michelle Johnson, and the term remediation was in there. And I just wanted to say that our program really prompts educators where to remediate, where your learners are having trouble. And when you were looking at the skill mastery report, the educator's job in doing triage, like in a emergency room, is to stop the bleeding. You zero in on those red areas, and that's where you're going to intervene and give support to your students. So I say stop the bleeding. It's not literal. It's just that the feedback is shown that the red areas are where your students need your support. So that's where you're going to turn your attention. And I'm glad you mentioned the trainings. I don't suppose you have a tab open for our Distance Ed series that has recently launched.
Oh, well, that's quick. So, oops. Professional Development Distance Learning Series.
Yes. So I just wanted to give a little plug. Laura, you can say more about it, but I am so proud of our company for launching these little discrete webinar recordings that are free and open to the public. They are really hitting the spot. I think we've had like 5,000 unique visitors to these trainings, and I didn't even know there were 5,000 adult educators in the whole country. So some of these actually feature great practitioners that we work with in the field, and they are telling you how our platform or how numerous platforms fit together to serve their students, and there's definitely something in here to help everyone, and these are free. So we sent that with, or Stacy sent that out as part of our attachment before the training. That's all I wanted to plug. And I did want to say that yeah, Laura and we have another trainer, Stephanie. They are at your service. Their recorded trainings are there. But you know, if you are doing a organization-wide professional development or in service, you know, we can schedule something with you guys individually and on your time frame. So just let us know how we can get you all the training you need along the way. Do we have more questions, comments, feedback from Asi or any of the programs before we bow out at the 1 hour limit?
Stacy, I do believe that there have been responses to every question.
I think so, and I'll just mention the link. I've been dropping the links in generally as they were mentioned, but we will send out those links so you have them in one handy place to everybody who attended today. And then we will be making a whole web page available to capture all of this great material for the OSSI and UDC Mini Professional Development Institute this week.
Well, Jason, Dr. Bruce and I and Stacy would like to thank you and Laura for facilitating our kickoff session on adaptive learning with essential education from adult basic ed to GED to workforce preparation. We do work closely with Jason and we will be offering other essential education, professional development throughout the year. Additionally, we would also like to thank each and every one of you for participating in the webinar this morning, and we invite you to join us this afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. to learn about another resource that we make available. It's called the Virtual Job Shadow. Mm-hmm. So this afternoon session is going to provide you with some tips on exploring career options with adult learners using high quality videos. So again, we look forward to seeing you in either this afternoon or one of the other webinars that will be occurring tomorrow and Wednesday. And Jason and Laura, thank you again. We applaud you and all the work that the Essential Education team is doing to address the needs, both the education and workforce needs of individuals at a distance. So thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. Keep up the good work. We're at your service.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.